Dear all, I am very happy to say that today we conclude our training on emerging cybersecurity trends with this final presentation titled Security Mitigation Strategies. It has been a lengthy course because I tried my level best to try and offer and discuss with you all the necessary areas. Therefore, today we are going to focus on cyber security mitigation strategies, and this one I'm going to make it very short. I'm going to make it very short and to the point, and then we can conclude our course. To begin off, we are going to start by mentioning that what is cyber security mitigation strategies. Cyber security mitigation strategies counter a broad range of exploitation techniques used by advanced persistent threat, APT. We are going to look at this also. Actors. These mitigations set priorities for enterprise organizations to minimize mission impact. The mitigations also build upon organizational cybersecurity framework functions to manage cybersecurity risk and promote a defense in-depth security posture. You'll realize that in these presentations, some of the terms are very advanced, and these terms are terms used in the security industry by security professionals, and also in the cyber crime industry by cyber crime professionals. So you should be familiar now with these terms like cyber security framework functions. You should be familiar with terms like defense in-depth, terms like security posture. These are some of the terms that are used in the industry. Therefore, we say additional strategies and best practices will be required to mitigate the occurrence of new tactics. Additional strategies and best practices will be required to mitigate the occurrence of new tactics. As the name implies, Advanced Persistent Threat, ATP, uses continuous, clandestine, and sophisticated hacking techniques to gain access to a system and remain inside for a prolonged period of time with potentially destructive consequences. So this is a very advanced way of cyber criminals committing the attacks, the black hat hackers. They use clandestine, continuous, and sophisticated hacking techniques to gain access to a system and remain inside for a prolonged period of time with potentially destructive consequences. If there is one thing that keeps corporate security professionals awake at night, it is the thought of an attack employing a range of sophisticated techniques designed to steal the company's valuable information. So this kind of ATP attacks, which is an advanced persistent threat, are very complex and are very sophisticated, that it gives the cybersecurity professionals really a head time. 5 cybersecurity functions. The related cybersecurity functions are keyed as identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. These are the mitigations. Some mitigations identify and protect. Some mitigations protect and detect. Some mitigations are meant for response, and some mitigations are used in recovery. We are going to look at them one by one as we progress. Because of the level of effort needed to carry out such an attack, APTs are usually leveled at high-value targets such as nation-states and large corporations, with the goal of stealing information over a long period of time rather than simply dipping in and leaving quickly, as many black hat hackers do during low cyber level assaults. So number one strategies or mitigation strategies, number one is update and upgrade software. I know we have spoken about this several times as we have been going through other presentations. Update and upgrade software. Update and upgrade software immediately. This one you should do at your level very easily, even your mobile phone or your personal laptop or your personal PC. Kindly remember to update and upgrade software immediately. Apply all available software updates, automate the process to the extent possible, and use an update service provided directly from the vendor. Automation is necessary because threat actors study patches and create exploits often soon after a patch is released. These end-day exploits can be as damaging as a 0-day. Remember that vendor updates must also be authentic. Updates are typically signed and delivered over protected links to ensure the integrity of the content. Then this measure of updating and upgrading software, when we go back to the purpose of the function, it is to identify and also to protect. It is to identify and also to protect. So identify updates and softwares in order to protect the systems. And then also, that is number one. Then number two, defend privileges and accounts. Assign privileges based on risk exposure and as required to maintain operations. Use a privileged access management system to automate credential management and fine-grained access control. Another way to manage privilege is through tiered administrative access, in which each higher tier provides additional access but is limited to fewer personnel. Create procedures to securely reset credentials, e.g. passwords, tokens, tickets. Privileged accounts and services must be controlled because threat actors continue to target administrator credentials to access high-value assets and to move laterally through the network. So this measure of defend privileges and accounts, the aim is also to identify the inflow of threat actors and also to protect the systems from these attacks. So number two is defend and privileges and accounts. And then also number three, enforce signed software execution policies. Use a modern operating system that enforces signed software execution policies for script executables, device drives, and system firmwares. You'll find some new words here in this documentation. It is for you to take note and to also explore the possibility of understanding them even more further. Maintain a list of trusted certificates to prevent and detect the use and injection of illegitimate executables. Execution policies, when used in conjunction with a secure boot capability, can assure system integrity. Application whitelisting should be used with signed software execution policies to provide greater control. Allowing unsigned software enables threat actors to gain footage and establish persistence through embedded malicious codes. These also protect and detect. And then also exercise a system recovery plan. Create, review, and exercise a system recovery plan to ensure the restoration of data as part of a comprehensive disaster recovery strategy. We said most of the organizations store their information in the cloud or offsite, and so that if something happens or if an attack occurs on the existing data that is in use, then they have backup in the cloud. However, you should exercise a system recovery plan. Create and review a system recovery plan to ensure restoration of data as part of a comprehensive disaster recovery strategy. The plan must protect critical data, configuration, and logs to ensure continuity of operations due to unexpected events. For additional protection, backups should be encrypted, stored offsite, offline when possible, and support complete recovery and reconstitution of systems and devices. So these are some of the advanced ways of also ensuring that you can recover from a disaster, and you can move on. For example, you should find a way that you can back up your contacts in your phone, your email contacts or your phone contacts in your phone, so that if you happen to lose your phone suddenly now, then you can know that I have a backup somewhere of the contacts, either in the cloud or through email or through other storage revenues. So create backups in order to have a proper recovery plan if something goes wrong. Then also perform periodic testing and evaluate the backup plan. Update the plan as necessary to accommodate the ever-changing network environment. A recovery plan is a necessary mitigation for natural disasters as well as malicious threats, including ransomware. So recovery plans also, the purpose is to identify, respond, and recover. You need to respond and you need to recover. And when you need to respond, then you need to find out whatever has happened through the techniques we talked about during investigation of cybercrimes, and then also you have to recover and continue in business. The purpose of disaster recovery is to be able to continue in business and also to minimize losses and the impact to the organization in terms of financial losses and also in terms of reputational losses and other losses that we spoke about. 5 is actively manage systems and configurations. Actively manage systems and configurations. Take inventory of network devices and software. Remove unwanted, unneeded, or unexpected hardware and software from the network. Starting from a known baseline reduces the attack surface and establishes control of the operational environment. Thereafter, actively manage devices, applications, operating systems, and security configurations. Active enterprise management ensures that systems can adapt to dynamic threat environments while scaling and streamlining administrative operations. So actively manage systems and configurations. And then also in relation to that, actively managing systems and operations, continuously hunt for network intrusions. You should have a system incorporated into your overall general operating system so that you are continuously hunting for network intrusions. Take proactive steps to detect, contain, and remove any malicious presence within the network. Enterprise organizations should assure that a compromise that has taken place and use dedicated teams to continuously seek out, contain, and remove threat actors within the network. Passive detection mechanisms such as logs, security information, event management, products, endpoint detection, and response, EDR solutions, and other data analytic capabilities are invaluable tools to find malicious or anomalous behaviors. So always have systems incorporated into your overall general system to hunt for network intrusions continuously. This should be a continuous practice. Also, active pursuits should also include hunt operations and penetration testing using well-documented incident response procedures to address any discovered breaches in security. Establishing proactive steps will transition the organization beyond basic detection methods, enabling real-time threat detection and remediation using continuous monitoring and mitigation strategy. These measures are designed to detect, to respond, and also to recover. Then also number 7, leverage modern hardware security features. Use hardware security features like unified extensible firmware interface, secure boot, trusted platform module, and hardware visualization. You see those terms are very complex. The purpose of this final presentation is to again open your mind into the wider area of protecting systems, into the wider area of protecting information, the wider area of protecting data. So you'll see new terms here, and I hope you are able to note them down and explore them further. Then schedule older devices for a hardware refresh. Modern hardware features increase the integrity of the boot process, provide system attestation, and support features for high-risk application containment. Using a modern operating system on outdated hardware results in reduced ability to protect the system, critical data, and user credentials from threat actors. So the aim here again is to identify and also to protect. And then segment networks and deploy application-aware defenses. Segment critical networks and services. You all know the term segmentation, what it means. It is dividing into areas in order to be able to secure each particular area independently. Deploy application-aware network defenses to block improperly formed traffic and restrict content according to policy and legal authorizations. Traditional intrusion detection based on known bad signatures is quickly decreasing in effectiveness due to encryption and obfuscation techniques. Threat actors hide malicious actions and remove data over common protocols, making the need for sophisticated application-aware defense mechanisms critical for modern network defenses. You see, as modern defenses, as modern mechanisms continue to grow, and also as a modern technology continues to advance, then we need to come up with application-aware defense mechanisms for critical modern network defenses. And then also, number 9, integrate threat reputation services. Leverage multiple sourced threat reputation services for files, DNS, URLs, IFS, and email addresses. Reputation services assist in the detection and prevention of malicious events and allow for rapid global responses to threats, a reduction of exposure from known threats, and provide access to a much larger threat analysis and tipping capability than an organization can provide on its own. Emerging threats, whether targeted or global campaigns, occur faster than most organizations can handle, resulting in poor coverage of new threats. Multi-source reputation and information sharing services can provide a more timely and effective security posture against dynamic threat actors. So also integrate threat reputation services into the systems. Then also transition to multi-factor authentication. We spoke about multi-factor authentications, the uses of the multi-factor authentication to confirm that whoever is trying to access the system, he or she is who she says she is. So use two-factor multi-authentication, prioritize protection for accounts with elevated privilege, remote access, and or use on high-value assets. Physical token-based authentication systems should be used to supplement knowledge-based factors such as passwords and pins. You see, physical token authentication systems should be used to supplement knowledge-based factors such as pins, passwords, and pins. Organizations should migrate away from single-factor authentication, such as password-based systems, which are subject to poor user choices and susceptible to credential theft, forgery, and reuse across multiple systems. So transition to multi-factor authentication. Also, let's talk a little bit about incident response, that now something has happened in the organization. There is a malicious attack, there is a malicious intrusion into the system. How do you respond to this incident? Before we go into investigation, we must first of all respond. So we say that having well-established plans and procedures in place for managing and responding to a cyber intrusion or attack is a critical first step toward preparing an organization to weather a cyber incident. A plan. We should have a plan, a response plan. Response plan. Such pre-planning can help victim organizations limit damage to their computer networks, minimize work stoppage, and maximize the ability of law enforcement to locate and apprehend perpetrators. Organizations should take the precautions outlined below before learning of a cyber incident affecting their networks. So if you are working for a particular organization, then these are some of the things that you should take in consideration. Or if you are working for a particular company and you are among the people who are working in the IT department or in the security department, and you are a cyber security professional, then the below information is very important. These are the things that you should think of, the things that you should put in mind in order to protect your systems. Number 1, it is phase 1. In phase 1, it is called preparation. So phase 1 is about preparation, to prepare. Prepare for the inevitable by developing a plan to respond to an incident more effectively. Prepare for the inevitable by developing a plan to respond to an incident more effectively. Secure executive sponsorship. This is, you must have the goodwill of the top management or the top executive. Identify your organization's cyber insurance requirements related to incident response. All organizations, they have also insurance requirements covering their systems. So identify your organization's cyber insurance requirements, and then identify your organization's most valuable assets. Identify the organization's most valuable assets. And we spoke about organizational aspects as related to computing, related to information technology. We spoke about these assets, both softwares and both hardware components. And then we also spoke about establish a cybersecurity framework baseline. Baseline security, these are the baseline measures. For example, as a baseline measure in your organization, there should be a framework, a point that says that staff are not allowed to move company laptops out of the premises without authority. This should be one of the things that should be on the in the baseline frameworks. And then also perform as maturity assessment, gap analysis, and penetration test to identify gaps. So we spoke about penetration test. Do study a gap analysis and also maturity assessment. Perform these things. And then also prioritize and address identified gaps. Create a threat model to understand the types of incidents your organization is most likely to and their potential impact. Identify compliance and reporting requirements. Properly define roles and responsibilities, and establish a communication plan to be used during an incident. Develop an incident response plan, including processes and procedures. Develop a playbook and conduct tabletop exercises. These are some of the things that you should participate in as a cybersecurity professional in your organization. Take note of those points, and then just a little bit deeper into what we have just spoken about. Steps to take before a cyber intrusion or attack occurs. Identify your crown jewels. Crown jewels are your most critical assets. So think about this when you go back to your organization. What are your most critical jewels? What are your most critical information? For example, at Brandy Institute of Forensics and Security, whoever is working for us as a technical person or as an administrator or as a receptionist, you should know that our crown jewels are our training presentations. Our training presentations, our training manuals, our certification process, these are our crown jewels. So we should be able to differentiate, we should be able to secure these crown jewels. We say different organizations have different mission critical needs. For some organizations, even a short-term disruption in their ability to send or receive email will have a devastating impact on their operations. For others, still, the ability to guarantee the integrity and security of the data they store and process, such as customer information, is vital to their continued operations. So as we have said, knowing your assets, identifying your assets that are critical to your operations is very, very important. And then before formulating a cyber incident response plan, an organization should first determine which of their data, assets, and services warrants the most protection. This is what we call to prioritize which it needs the most protection. Ensuring that protection of an organization's crown jewels is appropriately prioritized is an important first step to preventing a cyber intrusion or attack from causing catastrophic harm. Remember, resources are required here in order to come up with prevention strategies that will stand the test of time. Then expenses, resources are required. And then also, number B is to have an actionable plan in place before an intrusion occurs. Have a plan, as we have said, an actionable plan. That means a plan that you have exercised, a plan that your people are familiar with, that this is what we are going to do if there is an attack on us. For example, organizations should have a plan in place for handling computer intrusions before an intrusion occurs. If there isn't a plan at your workplace, then it is your responsibility as a cybersecurity specialist to advise your IT manager or even your general manager or even your security manager that we need a computer intrusion plan, that this is what we are going to do should something happen. And then during an intrusion, now it has happened, an organization's management and personnel should be focused on containing the intrusion, mitigating the harm, and collecting and preserving vital information that will help assess the nature and scope of the damage and the potential source of the threat. A cyber incident is not the time to be creating emergency procedures or considering for the first time how best to respond. There should be already a plan in existence that this is what we should do in case we find ourselves in a cyber attack. You'll find that in most organizations, these plans are lacking. However, in most organizations, these plans are there, but nobody has even read them. In most organizations, the plans are there, people have read them, but they have not exercised them. So it is very important to take those things into mind. And then also, the plan should be actionable. It should provide specific, concrete procedures to follow in the event of a cyber incident. At a minimum, the procedures should address who has lead responsibility for different elements of an organization's cyber incident response, from decisions about public communications to information technology access to implementation of security measures to resolving legal questions. The plan should also address how to contact critical personnel at any time, day or night, how to proceed if critical personnel is unreachable and who will serve as backup, what mission critical data, networks, or services should be primarily be considered for the greatest protection, what should be priority, what should be prioritized for greatest protection, and then also how to preserve data related to the intrusion in a forensically sound manner. And then we saw that investigating cybercrime involves collection of forensic evidence. So how to prevent data related to intrusion in a forensically sound manner is something we should consider. And then what criteria will be used to ascertain whether data owners, customers, or partner companies should be notified if their data or data affecting their networks is stolen. And then also procedures for notifying law enforcement and or computer incident reporting organization. And then all personnel who have computer security responsibilities should have access to and be familiar with the plan, particularly anyone who will play a role in making technical, operational, or managerial decisions during an incident. It is important for an organization to institute rules that will ensure its personnel have and maintain familiarity with its incident response plan. For instance, the procedures for responding to a cyber incident under an incident response plan can be integrated into regular personnel training. The plan may also be ingrained through regularly conducted exercises to ensure that it is up to date. Those are some of the aspects you should consider in the plan. And then we come to phase 2. Phase 2 is instrumentation. Instrumentation under phase 2. Instrumentation. Security teams need the right instrumentation to detect, contain, and eradicate threats. Consult an expert to identify gaps that exist within your existing security intrusion. Never learn to work alone. Never have the notion that you will succeed on your own, especially when it comes to cyber attacks, cyber crimes. Never imagine that you can succeed alone. You need to team up with experts in the field because this technology is very wide The tools used are very technical, and the methods that the cyber crimes used are very sophisticated, as we have seen. So always consult an expert to identify gaps that exist within your existing security instrumentation. We say in security that an open eye or a second eye from an external source is much more better than you yourself. The person who is doing as an expert to examine your system will be able to even come up with areas of vulnerability that you have not foreseen. And then ensure proper segmentation and isolation of business units based on user roles and devices present on the network to isolate incident impact and prevent lateral movement. Invest in endpoint detection and response, EDR, and next generation antivirus, NGAV. Please check out these softwares solutions to provide comprehensive visibility into endpoint activity critical to detecting, investigating, and mitigating advanced cyber threats. Centralize logs and leverage an event log management solution to detect and investigate unusual or suspicious activity across the entire enterprise. Collect network telemetry to identify and track atypical network traffic and baseline deviations. Minimize the attack surface of your environment through comprehensive vulnerability management solutions. Also, have an appropriate technology and services in place before an intrusion occurs. So before an intrusion occurs, organizations should already have in place or have ready access to technology and the services that they will need to respond to a cyber incident. Such equipment may include off-site data backup intrusion detection capabilities, data loss prevention technologies, and device for traffic filtering or scrubbing. An organization's computer service server should also be configured to conduct the logging necessary to identify a network security incident and to perform routine backups of important information. The requisite technology should already be installed, tested, and ready to deploy. Any required supporting services should either be acquired beforehand or be identified and ready for acquisition. Also, another area to consider is you must have appropriate authorization in place to permit network monitoring. Network monitoring needs proper authority or proper authorization. Real-time monitoring of an organization's own network is typically lawful if prior consent for such monitoring is obtained from network users. An organization should adopt the mechanisms necessary for obtaining user consent to monitoring users' communication so that it can detect and respond to a cyber incident. You might fall on the wrong side of the law if you start monitoring people's communication or communication across the organization without consent. User network warnings or banners that greet users who log onto a network and inform them how the organization will collect, store, and use their communication. A banner can also be installed on the port through which an intruder is likely to access the organization system. Computer user agreements, workplace policies, and personnel training may also be used to obtain legally sufficient user consent to monitoring. Organizations should obtain written acknowledgement from their personnel of having signed such agreements or received such training. Those are some areas to consider. And then also, quickly we say, doing so will provide an organization with ready proof that they have met legal requirements for conducting network monitoring. Consequently, any notice on the system of such an entity or organization should also inform users of their diminished expectation of privacy for communications on the network. You know, employees have a reasonable expectation of privacy while at their workplace, and this also includes systems that they are using for work. They expect that privacy will be in place. However, any notice on the system of such an entity or organization should also inform users of their diminished. They should be informed that you don't expect 100% expectation here, because this is an organization and we have a responsibility to protect our organization from cyber attacks. So we may at any time intrude into your system to conduct monitoring and monitor your communications. So staff should be informed. Then another area also to consider is to ensure legal counsel is familiar with technology and cyber incident management to reduce response time during an incident. In every organization, there are what we call legal representatives, lawyers and attorneys and advocates who conduct legal matters on behalf of the organization. They should be familiar with the technology and cyber incident management to reduce response time during an incident. Cyber incidents can raise unique legal questions. An organization faced with the decisions about how it interacts with government agents, the types of preventive technologies it can lawfully use, its obligation to report the loss of customer information, and its potential liability for taking specific remedial measures or failing to do so will benefit from obtaining legal guidance from lawyers who are conversant with the technology and knowledgeable about relevant laws. Your legal representative, you as a cybersecurity specialist, you should know who is your legal representative to your organization. You should have his contact or her contact so that in the event of a situation, you can quickly liaise with the legal representative specifically relating to unique legal questions. And then legal counsel that is accustomed to addressing these types of issues that are often associated with cyber incidents will be better prepared to provide victim organization with timely, accurate advice. Many private organizations retain outside counsel who specialize in legal questions associated with the data breaches, while others find such cyber issues are common enough that they have their own cyber survey attorneys on staff in their general counsel's offices. Having ready access to advice from lawyers well acquainted with the cyber incident response can speed an organization's decision making and help ensure that a victim organization incident response activities remain on firm legal footing. So always remember, you need to have legal advice. You need to have legal help. You need to have legal help of lawyers. You need to have legal help of forensic experts. You need to have legal help of law enforcement who deal with the cyber crimes. You need to have legal advice from even your top management. You should always keep in touch with this network of legal experts. And then also ensure an organization policies align with your cyber incident response plan. Every organization have their own policies. So ensure your cyber incident response plan is in alignment with organization policies. Some preventive and preparatory measures related to incident planning may need to be implemented outside the context of preparing a cyber incident response plan. For instance, an organization should review its personnel and human resource policies to ensure they will reasonably minimize the risk of cyber incidents, including from insider threats. Proper personnel and information technology IT policies may help prevent a cyber incident in the first place. Policies align your cyber incident response plans with organizational policies. Also, for instance, a practice of promptly revoking the network credentials of terminated employees, particularly system administrators and information technology staff, may prevent a subsequent cyber incident from occurring. Furthermore, reasonable access controls on networks may reduce the risk of harmful computer misuse. And then also engage with law enforcement before an incident. Organizations should attempt to establish a relationship with their local federal law enforcement. This is here in the UK. At home, organizations should attempt to establish a relationship with the local police who deal, or the CID criminal officers who deal with law officers long before suffer a cyber incident. Let me repeat that one. You should be able to liaise with law enforcement long before you suffer a cyber attack. Networking, keep in touch with the people who deal with the criminal activity related to investigators who investigate these crimes. Keep in touch with them before an incident occurs. Don't wait until there is an incident and then you are looking for these professionals. Having a point of contact and a pre-existing relationship with law enforcement will facilitate any subsequent interaction that may occur if an organization needs to enlist law enforcement assistance. It will also help establish the trusted relationship that cultivates bi-directional information sharing that is beneficial both to potential victim organizations and to law enforcement. And then also establish a relationship with cyber information sharing organizations. Defending a network at all times from every cyber threat is a daunting task. Access to information about new commonly exploited vulnerabilities can assist an organization prioritize its security measures. Information sharing organizations for every sector of the critical infrastructure exist to provide such information. So share information, establish relationships with the cyber information and the sharing organizations. And then also phase 3, it is about maintenance. Phase 3 is so in phase 3 we talk about maintenance and we talk about organizations and their threats constantly evolve. Conduct regular reviews of your incident response program. Implement continuous monitoring through a managed detection provider. Perform regular tabletop exercises to validate the efficacy of your incident response program. Perform regular patch maintenance on your servers. Conduct regular reviews and testing of your incident response plan and update it as necessary. Maintenance is very vital. And then leverage a purple team exercises to evaluate and the FK of your incident response team. Learn from security incidents within and outside of your organization. Stay abreast of the latest trends and attacker techniques and adapt your incident response program as necessary. And then also 3, we talk about responding to a computer intrusion. Now that it has occurred, how do you execute your incident response plan? An organization can fall victim to a cyber intrusion or attack even after taking reasonable precautions. Remember, we cannot protect 100%. We are unable, even in the physical security realm, to protect 100%. So you can still fall victim to a cyber intrusion attack even after you have taken all reasonable measures that we have spoken about throughout this course. So a robust incident response plan does more than provide procedures for handling an incident. It also provides guidance on how a victim organization can continue to operate while managing an incident and how to work with law enforcement and or incident response firms as an investigation is conducted. So consequently, having a vetted, actionable cyber incident response plan is critical. You see where we are going back? Actionable cyber incident response plan. An organization's incident response plan should, at a minimum, give serious consideration to all of the steps outlined below. Make an initial assessment. During a cyber incident, a victim organization should immediately make an assessment of the nature and scope of the incident. Make an assessment. In particular, it is important at the outset to determine whether the incident is malicious act or technological glitch. Then also using log information, a system administrator should attempt to identify the affected computer systems, the apparent origin of the incident, intrusion or attack, any malware used in connection with the incident, any remote servers to which data were sent if information was exfiltrated, the identity of any other victim organizations if such data is apparent in log data. Then also step B is implement measures to minimize continuing damage. This is now an incident has occurred, then put in place measures to minimize continuing damage. After an organization has assessed the nature and scope of the incident and determined it to be an intentional cyber intrusion or attack rather than a technical glitch, it may need to take steps to stop ongoing damage caused by the perpetrator. Such steps may include rerouting network traffic, filtering or blocking a distributed denial of services attack, or isolating all parts of the compromised computer network. In the case of an intrusion, a system administrator may decide either to block further illegal access or to watch the illegal activity to identify the source of the attack and or learn the scope of the compromise. Step 3 is to record and collect information. Record and collect information. Image the affected computers. image the affected computers. Ideally, a victim organization will immediately make a forensic image of the affected computers, which will preserve a record of the system at the time of the incident for later analysis and potentiality for use as evidence at trial. I want you to take note that imaging involves taking a snapshot of the software and data on a computer, so it can easily be installed or the computer can be returned to its state. Imaging, read more about imaging. And then also we continue and let's see that this may require the assistance of law enforcement or professional incident response experts. In addition, the victim organization should locate any previously generated backups which may assist in identifying any changes an intruder made to the network. And then step four is to notify people within the organization, specifically your IT manager, your general manager, your CEO, etc. Notify the people within your organization. And then number 5, notify law enforcement. We have spoken about that. Report the issue, report the attack, report the intrusion to law enforcement immediately. Report it immediately. Historically, some companies have been resilient to contact law enforcement following a cyber incident, fearing that a criminal investigation may result in disruption of its business or reputational harm. You should not fear reputational harm or business disruption when it comes to reporting to law enforcement. Report to law enforcement. And then what to do following a cyber incident. That is 3, do not use the compromised system to communicate. If there's a cyber attack has occurred, then do not use the system to communicate. And then also do not hack into or damage another network. Do not hack into or damage another network. Consequently, hacking back can damage or impair another innocent victim's system rather than the intruders. And then also, after a computer incident, even after a cyber incident appears to be under control, remain vigilant. Many intruders return to attempt to regain access to networks they have previously compromised. It is possible that despite best efforts, a company that has addressed known security vulnerabilities and taken all reasonable steps to eject an intruder has nevertheless not eliminated all of the means by which the intruder initially accessed the network. Continue to monitor your system for anomalous activities. So after a computer incident, don't just leave it there. Continue to monitor the system because the attackers may attempt to attack again. And then once the victim organization has recovered from the attack or intrusion, it should initiate measures to prevent similar attacks. To do so, it should conduct a post-incident review of the organization's response to the incident and assess the strengths and weaknesses of its performance and incident response plan. Part of the assessment should include ascertaining whether the organization followed each of the steps outlined above, and if not, why not. The organization should note and discuss deficiencies and gaps in its response and take remedial steps as needed. Cyber incident preparedness checklist is very important. Cyber incident prepared checklist. You should have a checklist that this is what we should do if there is a cyber attack or a cyber intrusion. And then summary, an internet connected organization can fall prey to a disruptive network intrusion or costly cyber attack. A quick, effective response to cyber incidents can prove critical to minimizing the resulting harm and expediting recovery. I want to say thank you so much for taking your time. Some of my presentations have been very long because I strive a lot to try and cover all the information that you need, and I also want to encourage you to continue working very hard and to continue sourcing for more information, and in the event that you need any information from me, to let me know immediately, then I can follow up. Note that next weekend we are doing our exams, and I wish you success. We have come to the end of our course, Emerging Cyber Trends, and I am confident that you have learned something throughout this training. We are going to meet again, God willing, for the next in the next semester, if I will be taking some further lessons. I want to say thank you very much for taking your time to study with us, and I wish you success in everything you do, and I wish you success in your career, and I wish you good ideas. You focus yourself and find exactly who you want to be in this cyber industry. If you want to be an investigator, if you want to be a forensic expert, if you want to be an IT security manager with a specialism in cyber security, then you have to take that direction. I wish you success and thank you so much. I will see you again, hopefully, in the next semester. Bye bye.